The Lions at the Buccaneers. Kickoff Sunday, October 15th at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, with an over-under of 42.5. Game Overview by Mike Johnson. A matchup of division leaders, this game has potentially huge playoff implications. Detroit's offense has scored over 30 points in 3 of their 5 games, while the Bucs defense has held 3 of 4 opponents to 17 points or fewer. Tampa Bay has not been involved in a game this year that combined for more than 44 points, while Detroit games are averaging 53.5 points over the last 4 weeks. The Bucs are coming off a bye, while the Lions look to get back 2 key offensive weapons. How Detroit will try to win. On a weekly basis, I watch many NFL teams struggle to find any level of consistent offensive success, while also seeing the Lions find new and creative ways to move the ball without the true star power of explosive players on the roster. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very good receiver, but he isn't on the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, among others, level of game-breaking talent. David Montgomery is a terrific NFL running back, but he isn't a dominant talent either. There must be a few NFL owners just salivating at the chance to get Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson in their building next year as he makes this team look effortlessly good on a weekly basis. Heck, last week the 49ers copied a play the Lions had run earlier in the day, and both teams scored touchdowns on it. When you have Kyle Shanahan making game day adjustments to the playbook to copy things you're doing, you can be pretty sure you're doing something right. Outside of last week's game against the Panthers, the Lions' schedule hasn't really had any pushovers. Green Bay, Atlanta, Seattle, and Kansas City all have solid, well-coached units. That being said, the Bucs defense likely presents the toughest challenge Detroit has seen this season. Coming off a bye and playing at home, the Bucs have held 3 of 4 opponents to 17 points or fewer so far this season, with the only exception being the high-flying Eagles, who scored 25 points on them and managed 472 total yards. On the flip side, the Lions' offense is clearly the best offense Tampa has faced outside the Eagles, as the Bucs controlled the game against the struggling Saints and Bears offenses while keeping the Vikings in check in Week 1. This creates an interesting situation where both the Lions offense and the Bucs defense are facing a tougher test than they are used to, and we get to find out which side's performance, so far, is more legitimate. The Bucs defense blitzes at the 4th highest rate in the NFL and mixes up their coverages between zone and man. The Bucs have 12 sacks on the season, but half of those came in one game against the Bears when Justin Fields was still playing in a fog. The Lions have a strong offensive line and allow the 4th lowest amount of sacks in the league, so this doesn't seem like a matchup where Tampa will be able to rely on heavy pressure to get the job done defensively. The Lions have established David Montgomery as their bell cow running back, and the emergence of tight end Sam Laporta has given them a legitimate running mate for Amon-Ra St. Brown as a consistent and viable receiving threat. The Lions have several other good pieces, and Ben Johnson does a great job of getting the most out of all of them and leveraging their individual strengths. The Lions have run the ball on half of their plays this season, although game script has a lot to do with that, and Detroit is closer to league average in play calling splits when games are still in question. Detroit expects St. Brown to return to the lineup this week and may get rookie running back Jahmyr Gibbs on the field as well. The Lions should be able to move the ball well, thanks to a well-schemed and balanced attack with their top 3 options, Montgomery, ARSB, and Laporta, on the field. How Tampa Bay will try to win. The Bucs offense has been fine in their easier matchups, Bears and Vikings, and didn't have to do much against the Saints in Week 4 because of the ineptitude of the New Orleans offense. The one time they faced an offense that applied some pressure and had talent on defense, they folded like a cheap tent against the Eagles, as they managed only 174 total yards and scored only 3 points in the first 50 minutes of action. The Lions' defense is a formidable opponent that ranks top 10 in the NFL in DVOA against both the run and the pass. The Bucs' running game has been awful this year, ranking bottom 5 in the league in both DVOA and yards per carry. Those stats are especially alarming considering 2 of their opponents are not particularly good run defenses. This week, we should expect the Bucs to be forced to rely on their passing game to a greater degree than we have seen for most of the season. Their lack of balance or threat of a consistent running game is likely to make them more predictable and could cause some major problems for their offense. Expect a heavy dose of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in the game plan, but there should also be some extra targets headed in the direction of tight end Cade Otton and running back Rachaad White, as the team is forced to press for points and the Lions are likely to be focused on Evans and Godwin. The Seahawks and Panthers had some success throwing the ball against the Lions, and the Seahawks offense profiles in a similar way to the Bucs. Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield are primarily pocket quarterbacks, but are willing to take off when necessary, while Mike Evans and DK Metcalf are the big-bodied perimeter receivers, and Chris Godwin and Tyler Lockett are the movable chess pieces who attack more in the middle of the field. Lockett had the big game against the Lions, and Adam Thielen also racked up production in the middle of the field last week, leading us to believe Godwin could be busy in this matchup as well. Tampa should enter this game knowing they will need more points than they've been able to get by on in several matchups this year, so they should be relatively aggressive early on, but may not truly open things up until, if when, the Lions get out to a lead. Likeliest game flow. A big part of the hot start for Tampa Bay has been the fact that the Bucs lead the NFL in turnover margin per game. This week, they face a Lions team that is strong and efficient offensively and does a terrific job of protecting the football. They had a tough outing against the Seahawks where they had 3 turnovers, but otherwise they have only 3 turnovers in their other 4 games. Tampa Bay's inefficient running game has been masked by the poor offenses they have faced in 3 of 4 weeks, but we should expect the Lions to apply some pressure this week and build a bit of a lead. The Lions are a well-coached, balanced, and occasionally explosive team. If it weren't for the early season dominance of the 49ers and Eagles, the Lions would be getting a lot more attention. While both of these teams have only 1 loss and lead their respective divisions, the Lions appear to be stronger in terms of personnel and schematics. I trust the Lions to find ways to move the ball and score points, as they have scored at least 20 points and put up 350-plus yards of offense in every game this season. The Bucs are likely going to need their passing game to show up in this matchup if they want to keep pace. The paths to a close game or Bucs win in this one are through Tampa Bay passing game success or Detroit red zone failure.